It's like I am behaving as though I have control over you. I must think I'm God because I think if I walk a different way or ask a question
Mm-hmm.
a certain way, you will somehow change. Set your animal up for success. That's what you do before anything. You don't start a training session, you don't do an interaction, you don't do anything with that animal until you've set them up for success.
Yeah.
How is it that I spent years and years in my life setting up these animals for success? I'd go right home and set myself up for failure. Find the littlest thing you can do consistently. And I'm talking about small, y'all.
Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of The Terri Cole Show. I had such an interesting conversation I think you guys are going to love with Kyle Kittlson, and he is the on-camera host for MedCircle, which I know many of you are familiar with. I've been familiar with MedCircle for years. It's actually the first place that I ever saw Dr. Ramani talking about narcissism, which I know many of you are familiar with her work, just interviewing so many great people in the mental health and health space. So he educates millions on the topic of mental health through all these interviews and educational content. And what his job really is as an interviewer is he's really translating, right, these complex topics into accessible, engaging, but also actionable things. Like we can walk away from these interviews with something to do. So I was interested to see what compels someone like Kyle to go into, because he's not a psychotherapist, right? So how did he get where he is today, interviewing the foremost, the best minds in the mental health space? And we talked about everything, and he got super vulnerable, and I really, really loved this conversation, and I think it's great food for thought. I hope you guys love it as much as I did. Well, hello there. I'm super excited to welcome Kyle Kittlson to the Terri Cole Show. Kyle, welcome.
Hi, Terry. Thank you.
I'm super excited that you are here. So, I was just telling the listeners and the viewers all about you and your journey and how I became familiar with your work and how I knew you. But I want to start with you, right? So, I interview lots of people on here, and I feel like all of us do what we do for our own super personal and specific reasons. And imagine if you were like a Marvel movie character. You have an origin story that led you to this moment in time and led you to do all the things that you've done that's led to this moment in time. So, would you tell us a little bit about how you got here? Like, what is your origin story?
Well, I love the phrasing of that question. My origin story is based deep in animals. I mean, I am an animal guy, and specifically marine animals, ocean animals.
Mm.
And I grew up in the desert in Arizona, but there was something about that I think that pushed me to the novelty of all these incredible creatures that live in the ocean. So much so that when I graduated college with my bachelor's degree in real estate and my intention to go into business, I took an unpaid internship in Hawaii to work with penguins, dolphins, and sea lions. So that was my client. And I remember reading a book in college, and the very first chapter said, if you are pursuing something that is not your love, not your passion, not your dream, then you might as well quit right now because you're going to end up doing your passion or your love or your dream anyway. And I remember thinking, no, 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 I want to go make money in business. I don't need to play with animals. And there I was, 22, playing with animals, just like the book said. So I guess I didn't listen very well back in my 20s either. But I started with animals. And the irony is that working with animals, all you're doing is learning psychology. You're
Mm.
learning behavior. You're learning classical conditioning, operant conditioning, positive reinforcement. You're learning all of these concepts. And then, I work at MedCircle. I interview psychologists and psychiatrists. I interview people with lived experiences, and they're all talking to me about psychology and and positive reinforcement and
Yeah.
all of these things. I go, I had this. So I think serendipitously, if that's how you say that word, um, it it was like the animals prepared me for the people.
Mm.
Animals prepared me for people. And I still like animals more than people. Okay, let's just get that clear. Happy to be on your show, Terry Cole, but I like animals more than people. But I mean, I have a bird perch behind me.
Mm-hmm.
My life is still animals, but I know that the impact in mental health for people is so great
Yeah.
and so important. And so I'm very thankful and I have a lot of appreciation for all the animals that got me ready for all the people.
Indeed, I love it. So your interest and your experience of mental health, because again, we're drawn to these topics for a reason. So you were diagnosed with depression when you were young, at the age of 9.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about how that impacted your life and how that impacted where you ended up?
Yes. At 9 years old, I went into a psychologist's office. I took all these tests. No one told me I had depression, but that was the outcome. And I got put on Prozac. Now, prior to that, I would say I was miserable. And I hesitate to say that as an 8-year-old because if my family listens to this, I don't, I still worry about their feelings,
I
good or
know.
bad. I
Yeah.
still worry about their feelings. And I don't want them to think I was miserable because they did anything wrong. In fact, the reason I got better was because they did so many things right.
Mm.
But I was miserable, Terry. I mean, I just remember crying a
Mm.
lot all the time. And not because I wasn't getting my way, not because
Yeah.
I wanted more ice cream. I was crying for seemingly no reason.
Mm.
So much so that my parents finally took me to a psychologist.
Right.
And I was on they put me on Prozac, and I don't know why, but I took it in a liquid form, a syringe.
Mm.
And my mom would squirt it in my mouth, and I'd swallow it. It was disgusting. I would drink all this water afterwards. I hated it. And I'm telling you, in about 4 or 5 weeks, I was going to school, and I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, school is kind of fun. Like these people are kind of good. I like these kids here. I have friends here." And then I go home and I go, "Oh my gosh, home's cool too. I like I like home." It was like it was kind of like the first 9 years of my life I had to get through, and then I had this peace come
Mm.
over me at 9. Now I'm 39, so that's been 30 years now. I take 40 milligrams of Prozac. I take 1 or 2 milligrams of Abilify.
Mm-hmm.
I have been on lots of different antidepressants over the years for many numerous reasons, and I still go back to Prozac. And what is so interesting about your question is you're like, okay, well, you were diagnosed at the age of depression at 9, so mental health must have been in your life your whole life. Well, not really.
Mm.
I I didn't know anything until I started working at MedCircle. I didn't even realize I didn't know anything
Interesting.
because I have been in therapy my entire life and I've moved a lot. So I've seen lots of different therapists.
Yeah.
And I interview my first therapist on MedCircle and she says yada 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 CBT and I say, "Hold on, what are you talking about?" And she goes, "CBT." And I go, "Yeah, what is that?" She goes, "Cognitive behavioral therapy." And I go, "What is that?" And she's kind of looking at me like, "You're the host of this mental health platform and you don't know what CBT is?" I go, "I never heard of it." And she tells me and blah, blah. And then I learned about DBT and I learned about ACT and I learned about EMDR and I learned about somatic experiencing. And then I learned about all the personality disorders. And then I learned and I learned and I learned and I learned.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm going, "Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
my therapist never taught me." All my therapists never taught me. I didn't even know there was homework. I just thought I talked, they nodded, they asked some good questions, I thought about it, and that was it. And that's very helpful and very beneficial. But I never had the education. I never knew
Right.
there was an education to have.
Yeah.
And now I have one. And once you have one, you realize how much you don't know. And then you keep
Indeed.
going, you're like, "Woo, I really don't know." So it's mental health has always been in my life. Mental health I became intentional about my mental health when I started at MedCircle, and I think I was about 31. I've been there about 8 years.
Wow. It's
Mhm.
so interesting. So how did you like tell us a little bit about how you got your way to MedCircle doing what you're doing? Because, really when you think about it, Kyle, you're interviewing like, these are the foremost experts in
Yeah,
mental health, like around the world. Like really
yeah,
some of the major ones you're interviewing. How'd you get
I
there?
know. Um, I was in LA. My dream. I was an animal trainer for many, many years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go, oh, I want to be Jeff Corwin, Steve Irwin, Jack Hanna. I want to be the famous animal guy on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to LA to pursue that dream. And lo and behold, y'all, it's hard out there. I did not make it. I didn't become the next Jack Hanna. I thought I was going to. What was that about? You always think you're the exception, don't you? You go,
Mm-hmm.
no, I know it's hard, but I'll be out there and I'll do it. I'll figure out how to
Right.
do it. And I didn't make that happen. But I was doing all these interviews and these little guest spots on TV as an animal expert. And Doug Colbeth, the founder and CEO of MedCircle, found me and said, hey, will you go interview some of these doctors? And I said, I don't interview doctors. And he goes, but I'll pay you. And I said, I interview doctors now.
Indeed.
So
My
here we go.
favorite thing to
Yeah.
do. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah. My favorite. Love it. So I go interview Dr. Romani, who's a clinical psychologist. And she, and I say this lovingly, at the time, she didn't have a YouTube channel. I don't think she had an Instagram account.
Yep.
She had one book, and that was kind of it.
I mean, the
And
first place I ever saw Dr. Romani was MedCircle.
Yeah. And for a lot
Years
of people.
ago.
For a lot of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just saying. You introduced me, so thank you.
Yeah. It's so funny when I meet somebody and they're talking to me about their favorite doctors and they don't know what I do, but we're talking about mental health and they go, I love this one woman, Dr. Romani. Do you know her? I go, yeah, I do. Certainly do.
I really do.
Because I've interviewed her more than anybody I've
Yeah.
interviewed. I mean, I've interviewed her maybe close to 100 times.
Yeah.
We're around that number. So anyway, I interview her in her apartment, and we just do it. I don't think anything of it. The video goes to 15 million views, and Doug comes back to me and says, "You got to do more of these interviews." And so we start interviewing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says to me, "Why don't you quit what you're doing in LA and come work for MedCircle full time and come move down here in Carlsbad and work out of these 2 studios and just interview doctors all day?" And I said yes, obviously. And I was sitting in our studio one day. We did long shoots, 10 hours sometimes. You're just sitting there, 10. Imagine talking about trauma for 10 hours,
Dude.
I mean, that's a long time. Under the lights with hair and makeup and all
Yeah.
the deal. And I realized that I had accomplished, and not to make this about me, but I had accomplished
But it is.
yeah, but here we are, a real big goal in my life. I am such a fan of Oprah, especially in terms of her ability in the 90s to cultivate the audience that she did. I mean, just incredible. And there's this great show on Oprah that Oprah put out, and it's all behind the scenes of her last year of the Oprah show. It's great if you've never watched it. And I had been binging that and dreaming about having that. And she's in the seat asking the questions. No one's asking her much, and she's running the ship. I was like, I want to run the ship. I want to ask the questions. I want to be on that chair right there and interview the guests. And then all of a sudden, my full-time job was to wake up, walk across the street into the studio, sit down in hair and makeup, and talk to the best minds in mental health. And I thought, I'm not Jack Hanna. I'm not Jeff Corwin, but I am Kyle, and I am doing this.
Right.
And this is really, really great. So to me, that was such a dream check. You get those little moments in your life where you go, I did something, like I finally made it. Maybe it's not what I thought, but I finally made it to this. And that was a really special moment for me.
It's interesting though how in both your younger life and in this life, the animals led you to the people, right? And it's like thinking that the animal, you were going to be the next Steve Irwin, or the animal,
Yeah.
they were going to lead you to. That was going to be the thing, and yet it turns out the mental health was actually the thing. So let's talk a little bit about what you've learned in all these years and really it's all the hours and all of the access to great minds who are, something about Romani is that it really does think outside the box in a way that's what struck me when I first saw you first interviewing her, is that I'd read quite a bit about narcissism. I'd been a therapist for almost 30 years, and at that point I was probably 15, whatever. And she was thinking outside the box, and she was putting it in layman's terms, and she was making it accessible, and you were asking questions that made it accessible. Like, what does the viewer really care about? How it's not a
Hmm.
theoretical thing. They want examples. They want something that's illustratable so they can go, "Oh, I can use this in my actual life." So what
Yeah.
have you learned, like just in your life, like from doing this? Things that I know you talk about consistency. So tell me what you've learned about that.
I'm trying to think of a great way to put this. It's I will get into specifics. I have so many specifics, but don't underestimate the general learning. Just being around it, expose. It's like your listeners, Terry. They listen, they come in and they tune in for you, and then they have this guest, and maybe some guests they're really into, and maybe some guests they're not really into.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're constantly exposing yourself to new ideas, new information from reputable, credible
Sure.
people, all of a sudden you wake up years later and you go, wait, I move different. I feel different. I speak different,
Yep.
and people treat me differently now. It might not be one thing. It's not like, oh, I learned this thing in acceptance and commitment theory. You're not your thoughts, and now I'm like walking
Right.
on cloud nine. So I think don't forget it's like I go to the gym. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
used to not be a person who goes to the gym because exercise for me is just like I have to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
I go to the gym, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, when I bend over, it's doesn't hurt as much, and I
Mm-hmm.
wake up with more energy and all these things. It's not necessarily one thing I did at the gym. I just go to the gym.
Right.
I just go and I do whatever I can. So I think some of that is there. But let's talk about consistency, because that
Yes.
changed my life, and it has to do with the gym. My whole life, and this was how I was raised. Were you raised in a strict household, or in a very free household?
Free.
Free, yeah. I was raised in an authoritarian household.
Mm.
That's the word I use because that's the one Dr. Judy gave me. So
Yep. It's true.
that's the one
I
I
use
use.
that word too to describe that household.
Okay, very good. Yeah. So there were rules, and one of the rules was you do it as hard and as best you can, and you never give up under no circumstances. Always
Mm.
finish, follow through, suck it up. That
Mm-hmm.
was that was really reiterated. So I carried that, and I still carry that with me into my adulthood. And I have Crohn's disease, so I've always struggled with my body and all these things and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I worked out, I would go 2 hours, 6 days a week. I would eat chicken like it was my job, and I was a workout guy. Okay. That's what I would do. Hard, 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 hard. And then
Mm.
3 weeks in, I would go, I can't do this. This is destroying my
Right.
life. And I would quit. And then in 6 months would go by, and I'd hire a trainer, and I'd be like, now I'm going to work with this trainer, and we're going to
Yep.
go really hard, and I'm going to do it again. And then, so this went on for years and years and years. And I don't know, I was 33, 34 or something. And I go, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go to the gym once, maybe twice this week. And I'm only going to allow myself to stay for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even care what I do while I'm there.
Yep.
I might, I might just walk around and look and then leave, but I'm there,
Decide.
baby.
Yep.
Yeah. And after you do it and I did that for a month or 6 weeks, 20 minutes twice a week for six
Yeah.
weeks. And then all of a sudden I was like, all right, I'll do a little more. I'll do a little more. Okay. So we all see where this is going. But it was the first time in my life I ever had success with exercise. And success being I felt and saw the differences.
Yep.
I felt and saw the results, and I stuck with it for years. And now I'm years into it.
Yeah.
And I work out 4 days a week now. I work out for a full hour.
Yep.
But I didn't start there. I start small. And now I start small with everything. You want to learn Spanish? I'm not doing it 2 hours every day I'm not going to wake up early and do it. I'm going to do it for 15 minutes on Thursday.
Yep.
Muchas gracias.
Yep.
Okay. And that's the end.
Yep.
And then you stack on top of that. Find the littlest thing you can do consistently. And I'm talking about small, y'all. People go, I want to start losing weight. I go, okay, walk to the end of your driveway.
Yep.
It's like, well, that's not going to do anything. I go, but do you walk to your end of your driveway now? No, you don't. So just start there. It's so stupidly small.
It's literally
Dr. Therese,
100%
yeah, go
more
ahead.
than you're doing.
Yes, yeah. You don't have to drink 8 cups of water a day. Who says that? the doctors say you should. Drink one, because right now you're drinking none.
Right.
Just try that. So I just the laughably small outputs is where the magic is.
I
That is where all of it is.
I love that so much, and I think that this speaks to a lot of my audience and my own young experience, where I've also come to this place that you have, Kyle, of I used to be, it was so all or nothing. It was so black and white. I was like the queen of
Yeah.
the New Year's resolution that shit was never getting done, or by February 1 it was
Yeah.
over, because I was endlessly setting myself up to fail. And so I think that what you're saying is so true, and I've discovered it in my own life over years, right? Of very similar, fits and starts and whatever. That it's interesting. I'm coming up on in September of this year to 10 years of my podcast, and it shocked me how this anniversary is coming up, and
Hmm.
how you don't realize, like, and the podcast is highly ranked and does incredibly well. I have 8 million downloads. Like, it's
Oh my
something
god,
that,
and your reviews are incredible. I've read so many of them before coming on here.
thank
Yeah,
you.
leave a review, y'all. That for those of us doing this, please leave a
Thank
review.
you.
It really does, yeah, mean something.
It
Anyway, sorry,
it no,
continue.
it's so, trust me, my team is always leaving reviews in our Slack channel, because I don't generally go looking for them, but it warms my heart so much to know that the work that we do, which is the same as what you do, it's like it matters. It's We're not
Mhm.
doing it into a void, but the consistency, where it seemed like when I started, because I didn't know. I mean, I started in 2015, not knowing really anything about. I hired people to help me and stuff, but not really knowing, and just realizing that just doing it week after week after week, and just you get into a groove, how much you can accomplish. And exactly what you're talking about, let's just even just use the physical fitness as an example. That I distinctly remember when, I think his name is Bob Green, he was Oprah's trainer, came out with this book in, like, I don't even fucking know, early 2000 something, whatever it was. And it was this revolutionary idea that you do not need more than 20 minutes of cardio. And this is when I was first starting to read again about bringing in weights, and how, again, the whole thing was less is more, consistency is king. And I was
Everything.
like,
Yeah.
wow. And it makes it so much more doable, as you're saying, right? You're
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't have to be at the gym for 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, because that is such a commitment, but it also is such the road to burnout. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about other things that have helped you in your life that you've learned from all of the people.
Well, you just prompted one for me when you said the black and white thinking. I sat down with a psychiatrist in New York, Dr. Judith Joseph. We sat down for our first in-person interview, and the topic is cognitive distortions. So I say, well, what are those? I go, well, it's kind of like little tricks and lies your brain tells you. It's like, okay, well, let's dive into them. She goes, there's lots of them. She goes, but I have 19 that we're going to go through. So we go through 19 cognitive distortions. Well, at the end, I go, well, I have all of these. And she goes, yeah, because you're alive. Most of us experience all these cognitive distortions at some point in our life. And the when you said the black and white thinking, the next thing you said was I wasn't setting myself up for success. The black and white thinking was causing you to make one choice, which was causing you to fail. You weren't setting yourself up for success. The number one rule in animal training, okay, if there are any animal trainers out there, I want you to think about what that is right now. My opinion, number one rule in animal training: set your animal up for success. That's what you do before anything. You don't start a training session, you don't do an interaction, you don't do anything with that animal until you've set them up for success.
Yeah.
How is it that I spent years and years in my life setting up these animals for success? I'd go right home and set myself up for failure.
So, how would you set them up for success?
Oh, so many different ways. How is their current attitude and motivation? Are they even wanting to participate in the first place? If you have an animal that said, if your dog, if you get out the leash and your dog lays down, you don't have to force the walk. That's not setting your dog up for success. He probably doesn't want to go on a walk. Knowing what the animal finds reinforcing and making sure you have that, you know?
Yep.
So many of us expect the animal to just do it because we asked to do it rather than working with them to make it fun in a game and actually showing them why they would want
Right.
to do
Yeah.
this.
What's the payoff for them to do it?
What is the payoff? Yeah. I go, I don't work for, compliments. So we got to make sure that we're doing the same for the animals. But to bring it back to us is we should be asking ourselves that question in two different ways or in two different times. The first one is before we're going to do something. Like if you have anxiety about going to a wedding or you have anxiety about a conversation with your boss or whatever it is, ask yourself, have I set myself up for success? What could I do to set myself up for success, And the second thing is the retroactive piece is when we've had a, let's say, I have to go see my mother-in-law, and we got there, and of course she brought up politics, and it turned into a huge argument, and it was such a fail. Okay, I get it. What could you have done to set yourself up for success?
Right.
Maybe what could you have done to set your mother-in-law up for success? Looking at those things retroactively to know. And when we start to take those mindful moments, I've never talked to one therapist ever who hasn't brought in mindfulness. I mean, you guys just love it. You love, love, love bringing in mindfulness.
We do.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that because you bring in that mindful moment. You have a real conversation with yourself, and then all of a sudden you have a little bit of your control back, and you can make different changes to improve the circumstances in your life.
Yep.
But it takes us going out of the habit. The habit, dear listener, the habit you've been in for maybe your entire life. That habit could have started when you were 6. You're a pleaser. You just want to make sure that they're happy with you. So you please, 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 please.
Yep.
And at some level, you do this, dear listener. You know that you're a pleaser and you
Oh,
please.
yeah.
But have you ever stopped, gotten really mindful, and asked yourself questions out of curiosity and not judgment? Dr. Christy Lamb is a great psychiatrist. She
Yeah.
always reminds me of this. She goes, when we're doing that analysis, when we're going back, when we're thinking and looking and asking and all of those things, I call that doing the work, okay? When we're doing the quote work, are you coming from a place of judgment or curiosity? And look, Terry, no one's more judgmental of Kyle Kittleston than Kyle Kittleston, okay?
Right.
I'm a big judge of Kyle Kittleston. And I have to, literally, I worked yesterday from 8:30 in the morning till midnight. I worked all day. And at midnight, I got in bed and I go, God, you didn't even get this other thing done, and you're going to bed. And I'm like,
Right.
but what else?
Yeah.
It's just too judgmental. Curious.
Yes.
Try to be curious.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah.
And back to we'll close the loop on the cognitive distortion. So you had brought it to the all or nothing thinking, right? That was like the number one of cognitive distortion. There's so many others, of course, that we do all the time. And I think that one that I see a lot in my therapy practice is people discounting the positives, right? Exactly what you just said, literally. You insist that your accomplishments or positive qualities sort of don't count. So you worked for 12 hours straight and then you're like, and you still didn't do this. And what happens when we are sort of rocking these cognitive distortions, and how helpful it is to just be aware? Exactly what you said, curiosity.
That you're nailing it. So often in the mental health conversations, we get to the awareness, okay? And then I push the doctor and I say, thank you, doc. We're now aware, but what do we do with this awareness? And then we have to have a conversation with awareness. When it comes to cognitive distortions, for me, and for many others, I believe, just being aware is all you need.
Yes.
To have a new level of peace. Because then you walk through the door and you go, ugh, the dishes aren't done. My husband must be mad at me.
Right.
And you go, hold on, black and white thinking, or hold on, catastrophizing, or whatever it is.
Jumping to
And you go,
conclusions.
jumping to conclusion. That's a cognitive distortion. Next
Yes.
thought, Woo, that's peace right there for me.
Yes. It's so helpful just to, I think that for some, I always say this as a therapist, that sometimes things take us decades to learn, and other times in an instant it can be changed when you have raised your awareness, when you go, oh, I didn't even know this was a possibility. to change my
Yeah.
mind about that all or nothing thinking. And then your life, as you're living it right now, the way you're relating, let's just say to your physical health, because that's what we were talking about,
Yeah.
is completely different
Yeah.
because you set yourself up to succeed. And I feel like everyone listening can really do the same thing, right? You've had all of this exposure, and me too, because I've interviewed lots and lots of people, and Romany a couple of times, and lots of other people over the many years, that you can almost cherry pick the things that we see over and over that have helped you. I think it's safe to say, Kyle, if something has helped you in your life or something has helped me in my life, there's probably other people suffering with that same thing, and perhaps what we realized will help them too.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend who texts me twice a year. Well, he texts me more than that, but twice a year he texts me and he says, or no, I'm sorry, twice a year this will happen where I text him
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like checking in, how are you doing? And twice a year he'll say, not good. Uh, I'm just not good. Mentally, I'm not good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he goes through why he's not good. Okay. And I say, have you gotten any sleep? Have you had any water? And he goes, and people will hear that and go, what are you talking? I would be one of these people. Be like, what are you talking about? Sleep and water? Like, move on. I already know that. Every time he goes, you're right. I haven't slept and I'm not drinking water. And then he always texts me like 4 days later. He's like, thank you. The water and the sleep help. I go, yeah. Don't forget water and sleep. And so I just say that. So what might
Right.
be obvious to me
Yeah.
to not let a cognitive distortion ruin your day,
Yes.
right? That's obvious to me now. Back 8 years ago, not obvious, right?
Sure.
Autopilot, had no idea I was even doing it. Right
Sure.
now, that's obvious to me. But that's not obvious to everybody.
Right.
And so sharing those wins, whether it's like, did you know, y'all, I feel better when I drink water? That's a reminder. That's a reminder. I used
Exactly.
to discount it, Terry. I used to get on the doctors who came on the show when they would tell me, oh, draw a hot bath, go on a walk, eat the Mediterranean diet, get enough sleep, exercise
Yeah.
every day. I go, yeah, I already know. I would get mad at them
Yeah.
almost and be like, stop telling me to do all this. We already know all that. And then the truth is one, not everybody does.
Correct.
Okay. I didn't know what sleep hygiene was until I learned what it was.
Right.
And then two, we need the reminders.
Yeah.
We need the reminders. We've got to have those reminders because what else in our life I get reminded for everything. I get reminded when I need to go to the dentist. So I'm going to
Seriously.
need a reminder to drink water and go to sleep.
I will agree with that. All right, I have a question for you that's non sequitur, but I love to ask because I'm still
Fun.
obsessed with boundaries. So, personally, what has been your most challenging boundary struggle, and how have you overcome it if you have?
I'm in the midst of the biggest boundary struggle that I've ever had.
Okay.
I have not overcome it. The boundary is with someone very, very close to me, just to protect their own, privacy. I'm not going to mention who it is, but it's someone very, very close to me. And this has happened about 3 or 4 days ago. So this is very fresh. My life with them, my relationship with them has been such that their emotions dictate mine. If they are happy, I am happy.
Yep.
If they are stressed, I am stressed. And if we are on the verge of an outburst, I am walking on eggshells and maneuvering and changing and accommodating any
Shape-shifting.
way I
Yep.
can
Yep.
so that you don't have an outburst.
Yep.
It's like I am behaving as though I have control over you. I must think I'm God because I think if I walk a different way or ask a question a certain way, you will somehow change,
Right.
And I've been doing this for years.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 days ago, I really had an out loud. I talk to myself out loud. I clean and I talk to myself out loud
Love it.
at the same time. And I had a conversation with myself and I was like, you're doing this. He's not going to be different.
Right.
You are going to, you have to put in a boundary. Okay.
Yep.
That's where I'm at. I'm unwilling to put in a boundary where I don't see this person, where I don't have contact. I'm not going no contact with this person. But there has to be some boundary. What I'm working on, I'm going to say what I'm working on. I'm going to say how I'm doing it. And then I would love to hear what you think I should be doing.
Sure.
Or what insights or questions you have about it. What I want to do is separate the emotions that this person has from the emotions I have. This person can be angry and mad and
Mhm.
have an outburst and yell and scream. And that doesn't mean I have to be angry as well,
Mhm.
because it's it has nothing to do with me. And
Mhm.
they really don't. It's not like this person is my boss and has some sort of like
Right.
leverage over me, you
Right.
know. Um what I'm doing with that is practicing it in other spaces that don't matter,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
We just call it low
Um,
priority people.
low priority people.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So I was somewhere. Oh, I was just in New York, and the bartender was so rude. I mean, just
Mhm.
so rude. And my friend was so mad
Yeah.
because the bartender was rude to us.
Yeah.
And and in my head, I'm thinking, gosh, I love that the bartender was rude, but I'm good. Like, I didn't take it personally. I'm not
Mhm.
losing any sleep over it. And I can feel that. I can mindfully and intentionally be aware of
Mhm.
that. And I think that's just what I call another rep. Another rep where someone had a big reaction
Mhm.
in my vicinity, in my environment, and I didn't absorb all of that
Yep.
emotion and hold it.
Or
And
feel
so
like
I
you
get
had
that
to
rep in.
manage it, right? Feel like you had
Yeah, or
to
oh yeah,
manage it.
we're so sorry, or we'll come back, or
Yep.
whatever. And that so I'm trying to find those little reps.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have this done by Friday.
Right.
Um, and I don't even really care about when it gets done. I don't even know if I look at it like that. I
Mhm.
think it's just I find the little reps, and then I'll know as time goes on when this person blows up around me again. I have to check in with myself
Yep.
first thing and go, how am I feeling about this?
Yep.
Instead of going, why is he like that?
Right.
Why would he do that? Or what? Why couldn't I have done a better job managing this person's emotions? So, what do you think, Terry?
Well, you mean classic codependency is what you're describing. And I would say probably high functioning codependency because you're a high
Mm.
functioning person. And that's what that book is about. This whole concept of feeling overly responsible for other people's emotions. And what we're specifically talking about is having disordered emotional boundaries, right? That's what you describe
Mm.
when
Disordered
emotional
emotional
boundaries,
boundaries.
right?
Yeah.
So when someone else is feeling, so it's like you come home, or you're meeting with that person, you could be in a fine mood, that person's in a terrible mood, suddenly your mood is bad. So
Yeah.
it's there's a level of enmeshment that you're also describing, but I really think that the focus being on boundaries, and first it's understanding, and I think you do because you just described it, that you are not responsible for the way someone else feels. You can't
Hmm.
be. It's impossible. So it's like a
Right.
losing battle to try to. But what happens is then we end up walking on eggshells and we end up feeling like we are the puppet master, or that we must be, because it feels very threatening. And it's not because you think you're God, it's because it's scary, right? It's because it's emotionally it it is activating to us to be around that. So you're just trying to
Totally.
protect your nervous system by doing this, but it's tiresome and it's a lot of bandwidth and it creates a lot of resentment, because why do I
Hmm.
need to be mad? I mean, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying this is what I've seen for decades in my practice. So I think that separating, like you're saying, what is being super clear, what is my side of the street? What is their side of the street emotionally? If they're having a big experience about something, and as long as they're not taking it out on you, because I always say to my husband, you have every right to however you feel. You have no right to take it out on me ever.
Hmm.
You
Exactly.
literally don't. So
Yeah.
put in words, if I go, all right, you seem like you're in a bad mood, something's going on. And listen, I give latitude. I'm not saying like the moment I notice a bad mood, I'm like, oh, the mood police. But there'll be a point
Right.
where you're like,
Yeah.
if nothing is wrong between you and I, stop acting like it is. Well, no, I'm just in a mood because of the work. Okay. You want to talk to me about feeling overworked? Great. You
Hmm.
want to snub me, be short with me, slam a door? No.
Yeah.
Absolutely no. It doesn't work for me. Now, I'm not saying being married to me is the greatest thing. We've been together 28 years. It's not that bad. But, you get to a point where when your mental health is at a certain level, and listen, all relationships, friendships, whatever the relationship is, we have to find our way to that interdependency, to that you are responsible for, because for years I was codependently attached to my husband. And I think that this is very, it's very common. And then every time he didn't do things the way that I thought he should do them, or he didn't react the way that I would make him wrong in my mind. I'd be like, what the hell is wrong
Yeah.
with him? Like, I don't get his deal. You should be happy. You found me. We have a happy life. What are you sad about? Like, all this judgment. And so back to what you had said earlier in the interview, I find that I will bring myself to a place of compassionate curiosity about where he's at and how he's feeling. But these emotional boundaries of being so clear that I'm not responsible for the way that he feels, and I care about the way that he feels, right? So both things can be true, but it isn't my load to carry, right? And it's not yours either, whether it's a friend, whether it's a lover, it doesn't matter who it is, right? Because we are only responsible for ourselves.
That part is the part that's hard for me, Terry. And I think a lot of people will feel like that's hard for them, which is when you said, but I care how you feel, because
Yeah.
I do care how this person feels.
Yes.
I do.
And
And part of me thinks I have to care less in order to have this
no,
boundary.
you have to
No.
control less.
Huh. Yeah, and I have an issue with control.
Of course.
I have to control less. Yeah.
That's the difference, is allowing, tolerating the discomfort of having them be having a negative experience without feeling compelled to fix it, or dancing as fast as you can to make their favorite food or make them a drink, whatever it is you're doing to distract them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just respecting their right to be autonomous. And it's going to take a minute, if it's a long relationship, to change the steps of this dance, because you've been doing it for a long time. So it's next right action after next right action. And what I would do as I was changing the dance with my husband, I would just sort of tell on myself, right? I would say, if I had a thought where, to be honest with you, there's a part of me that feels like judging you right now from what you just said, but I'm not going to, because I'm actually more interested in knowing why you feel that way. Like, I would almost like blow up my own spot so that I wouldn't repeat the cycle of what I was doing that wasn't working. Or I feel like ignoring you because I'm pissed off right now. But the truth is,
Yeah.
I'm more interested in resolving this. So can we take a 30-minute break and then come back to it, or whatever? So those are some of my thoughts for you, Kyle.
Really fabulous. Really fabulous. I was on a call with my friend, a FaceTime with my friend yesterday, and he's like, how are you going to handle this? And I went through some of those things I told you. And then one thing I said was, I think I have to care less. And you just saved me from that path.
Yeah. Because you can't
And
care less. Because you're you.
thank you. Thank you for saying that.
You can't.
Thank you for saying that. It's good to hear that as the person over here caring.
That's right.
I hope the people listening, because one thing I'm good at because of MedCircle is I get the piece, the information, the insight, the aha, the wisdom, and I apply that mother. Okay.
Yeah.
I apply it. What I want more people to do is not just listen, go, that's a really good idea, drive home, and then no application.
Right.
Whether it's a breathing exercise, a mindfulness technique, or giving not going down the careless path, but the control less path.
Right.
You got to do these things, y'all.
Yes.
You got to do it. Don't just listen to the podcast. Then you're just a listener.
Right.
Go take it and do it and improve it.
Yes.
Improve it. Improve it. You can do it.
We
Yeah,
can do
go
it. All right. So where can people find you, Kyle Kittleston?
You know, I continue to take steps back from social media. I'm on there. You can find me at Kyle Kittleson. Go stalk my whole life. It's all out there. But if someone really wants to connect, Kyle@MedCircle.com. That's my email address.
Right
That's
on.
where I connect people. Okay. That's how that goes right to my phone, right into my hand, and I will respond. So Kyle@MedCircle.com. And I'm also, of course, very active inside the MedCircle community at MedCircle.com. And so, you know, that's my tribe. That's where I kind of live, in my email and on the MedCircle community.
I
That's
love
where
it.
I get it all.
All right, you guys. So if you have not been turned on to MedCircle. Now you are. All the information will be in the show notes. Kyle, thank you so much for giving us so much
Oh,
time today. I had a lovely time. I really appreciate you.
thank you. Thank you.